Hello learners, today we are going to read about the introduction to soil and soil management aspects. We are going to see what is a soil, how it is formed, the processes involved in its formation, the result which is a soil profile and a soil horizon, factors that influence soil formation, the types of soils, the characteristics of soils. They could be either physical or chemical that are supposed to be used frequently in this course. Let us see what is a soil. A soil is any unconsolidated mineral or organic material that whose purpose is to anchor plants and is found on the surface. Its formation is as a result of environmental and genetic factors. This could be either the effect of climate, which is the effect of temperature and rainfall, the effect of macro, for instance, what we call as the millipedes, and the millipede and the centipede, the microorganisms, what we refer to as the bacteria and the fungi. It is these aspects that control the physical, chemical, biological, and morphological, which is also the structural property of soil and its characteristics. There are two definitions of soils, one from the Soil Science Society of America and the other one from the Soil Taxonomy. Please be familiar with these definitions. How is a soil formed? There are 5 processes that are involved in soil formation. Number 1 is what we call as leaching, which is the washing away of clay particles during cation exchange and their movement from one horizon to another. The second procedure is what we call as eluviation, which is the washing away or the removal of some of the clay particles that are found on soil suspensions. The third process is what we call as eluviation. Eluviation is the opposite of elevation. It mainly refers to the deposition of some of the soil particles that are held in suspension, such as clay. The other procedure that controls the process of soil formation is fertilization, which occurs when strong acid soil solutions cause the breakdown of clay minerals. As a result, complexes of iron, aluminium, and silica with other organic substances in the soil are formed. These are what we call as the mineral content of soils. The last procedure is what we call as blaying. Blaying usually is what defines the color of waterlogged soils that are found in areas that are flooded or marshy. This is as a result of anaerobic conditions that enhance the reduction of clay, the reduction, sorry, they enhance the reduction of anaerobic conditions enhance the reduction of iron compounds, and therefore the soils tend to blacken. Simply saying that there are 4 processes that control soil formation. They could be either in the form of translocations, that is the movement of organic or inorganic material from one part of the soil to another. They could be either transformations also, which control the weathering of primary particles and are mainly focused on modifying the chemical composition of soil. The other process is what we call as losses, which we defined in the processes of leaching and elevation, and they are the ones that are controlled by the erosion by either wind or soil. The other basic process in soil formation are what we call as additions. They could be as a result of deposition of contents that have been blown by the wind or drawn by water through soil and wind erosion, or through the addition of organic matter while trying to manage the soil. So what is a soil what is a soil profile or a soil horizon? Usually when the four processes we have discussed in the previous slide result, they form what we call as a soil profile, an arrangement of the soils from the surface to the subsurface. part of that arrangement is what we refer to as a horizon. In a soil profile, you will find different types of horizons. The most common horizons are the O, the A, the E, the B, the C, and the R horizons. The O, also known as the organic or the humus horizon, is what consists of plant depositions or animal waste that has been deposited, what we refer to as manure. It occurs as a result of the deposition and subsequent decomposition. Followed by that is what we call as the topsoil or the A horizon that consists of substances that have gone through decomposition, that is humus or organic matter that has undergone decomposition and have mixed with other components of the soil. It is a good material for plant growth. The next horizon is what we call as the E or the elevated horizon, which is as a result of elevation or the leaching of organic matter, minerals, and clay particles, and their subsequent combining with sand and soil and sealed particles of the soil. Next, we have what we call as the B horizon, that is rich in minerals that have been washed away from the previous O, A, and E horizons. The next from the C horizon is what we call as parent material or the C horizon. It is where soil begins to develop. Within the C horizon is what we have as bedrock that consists of mainly rocks with some minerals such as limestone, sandstone, granite, basalt, and quartz. This is where the parent material originates. Using this, using this soil profile or soil horizons, different soils can be described and their differences can be seen physically. What are the factors that influence the formation of any part of a soil or any horizon of a soil? It could be either the parent rock, the climate, the time, the biota, or the topography. The parent rock determines the color, the chemical the mineral content, and the ability of soil to hold or allow water to pass. Usually, some soils are red and others are black. These are as a result of the mineral and chemical properties, and these usually define the ability of the soil to be used in plant growth. Topography also affects soil formation in that it determines accumulation of soil by controlling processes such as erosion. Climate is also another aspect that influences soil formation. Climate could be either in aspects of rainfall or temperature. Usually, the two affect the rate at which weathering and the formation of humus occurs. When it is very hot, the formation of humus is very fast. However, decomposition occurs fast, so it also disappears very fast. In terms of rainfall, when it is very rainy and especially in marshy or waterlogged areas, the formation of humus is very slow because the decomposition rate is very slow. Therefore, humus is able to accumulate. Therefore, temperature and rainfall influence the formation of humus and its accumulation at the O horizon. The rate of weathering also affects temperature and rainfall. This occurs because rainfall enhances the process of elevation, leaching, and also transformation. The other factor that determines soil formation is time. Time is what determines the thickness of any part of a soil. That is the soil horizon and ultimately the entire soil profile. Some soils are considered deep and others are considered shallow. Deeper soils have taken longer time to develop, while shallow soils are still at their young stages. We will see this when we will be looking at the various types of soils. The biota consists of the macro and the microorganisms. Usually, the macro are what we know as the millipedes, the worms that determine soil the formation of humus. The microorganisms help in also in turning and shunning the soil so that it becomes more consolidated and improves the structure of the soil. The various types of soil are mainly based on their location. However, we will only focus on a few. For example, let us look at the spondosols. They are one of the most common soils and they are very fertile. They have a unique color. Let us look at what we call as the vertisols. These vertisols are what we have commonly in areas of Nairobi. They are called the shrink soil types of soil. During the dry period, they shrink, they become small, and their structure looks like it has been compacted. However, when they are wet, they swell, they become larger and expand. These soils are very complex in terms of agriculture. When you look at the other category of soil are what we call as the aridi soils. They are found mainly in areas that are arid. Considering that our country is 80% arid, these soils are not good for agriculture because they do not retain a lot of water, minerals, and they are very poor in terms of soil organic matter retention. The other type of soils I would like us to look at are the moldy soils. These soils are found in areas that are highly fertile. For instance, the Mount Kenya region, and they are very, very fertile and productive in terms of agriculture. What I would also the moldy soils are also closely related to the schistosols. When you look at the jelly soils, they are soils that are found in the Arctic and the Antarctic in areas that are frozen. So other soils I would like us to look at are what we call as the subsoils and the empty soils. They are soils whose parent material is still in the development stage, so they do not exhibit many characteristics of agricultural suitability as they are still in their development stage. I would like you to get acquainted with these types of soils so that you can know their unique characteristics based on where they can be found in the globe. Today we are also going to look at some of the aspects of soil that are important in soil management. These include the water holding capacity, ion exchange capacity, the aeration, the soil temperature, the organic matter content, the nutritional content, and the mineral content. What is a soil structure? What we refer as a soil structure is a grouping of various soil particles, what we know as organic matter, clay, silt, and sand, into what we call as porous compounds that are collectively known as aggregates. The aggregates are what leads to the formation of pores and cracks, and they are the ones that allow the processes of permeability of water and infiltration of water into the soil once there is rainfall. When we see a soil, how do we differentiate just from looking at it? Usually, a well-structured soil will drain relatively quickly after rain or after irrigation. On the other hand, poorly structured soil will inhibit plant growth and they may be in waterlogged conditions. But what are the various soil structures that we have? They include granular structure, where soil is arranged into small particles. The blocky structure, where soil is organized into blocks. Prismatic structure, where soil is arranged in a prism form. And the massive structure, where the soil is found in very big rock kind form. What is there about this soil structure? Usually, As we have mentioned, the soil structure is what determines how much of water will get into will get into the soil, and as such, how much will be available for the plant to access through the roots. The granular soil structure allows a lot of water to go through and therefore is good for terms of germination and plant growth. While the other three, the brocky, prismatic, and massive structures, are not so good in allowing water to go through. For instance, when you look at the massive, the water only goes into one direction. It could be horizontal or vertical. Therefore, the roots do not have access to the water as fast as they would require. Therefore, plant growth is also inhibited. The other aspect we will look at is the water holding capacity. What is the water holding capacity? It is the amount of water that a given soil can take for use by the crops to grow. Usually, it is measured in terms of field capacity. Field capacity is the point at which the soil has had so much, more than enough, the maximum, the maximum amount of soil, the maximum amount of water a soil can hold is what we refer to as the field capacity. The opposite of field capacity is what we call as the wilting rate. It is the least amount of water as a soil can hold for plant growth. Usually, at the field capacity, beyond this point, the soils are considered to be waterlogged or to be flooded. Below this point is what we are calling is suitable for plant growth. At the wilting rate, beyond the wilting rate, the plants will all dry up. Within the wilting rate, there will be signs such as the plants having a stunted growth and not growing as they would because they do not have enough water. The water holding capacity is determined by two factors, what we refer to as organic matter and the soil texture. When the soils have got a lot of organic matter, they have the ability to attract a lot of water. Conversely, when soils are deficient of organic matter, they do not hold enough water. On the other hand, smaller particles such as silt and clay have large surface area to volume ratio and are able to hold a lot of water compared to sandy soils that have got larger particles and only allow water to go through rather than holding it. It is therefore important for us to improve the water holding capacity. The soil structure must be improved from being sandy to being silty and clay. On the other hand, the soils must have adequate soil organic matter so that they can be able to hold enough water. The other aspect we will look at in soil management is what we call as the cation exchange capacity. What is cation exchange capacity? It is the total capacity of a soil to hold exchangeable cations. You remember from your basic biology that a plant cannot access soil cannot access soil minerals unless they are in their ionic form. For these cations to be exchanged, that is, to be moved from the soil, to the plant root, they must be in their cation form. The capacity the capacity to hold these cations is what we call as the CC. This is an inherent characteristic of soils that is difficult to alter. That is, soils, different kinds of soils have different capacity, CC capacity. What is the role of CC? Usually the CEC buffers soils against acidification, that is, the alteration of their pH. Remember that we said even from in our basic biology that soils that have got too high pH, that is their basic, they are not good for agriculture. Soils that have got a low pH, that is, they are acidic, they are also not good for plant growth. Therefore, to maintain the pH in a constant, not very high acidic, not very high basic, we have to regulate the pH. And we have said that it is an inherent characteristic that to alter. However, there are some processes that can be used to enhance the CAC. These include the ability to add. These include the addition of soil organic matter and the ensuring that soils have got a higher clay fraction. This can be added to the soil by modifying its structure from those we called as prismatic, massive, and brocky to what we said as granular. The other aspect we will look at is soil aeration. What is soil aeration? It is simply saying it is the amount of air, that is oxygen or carbon dioxide, that is found in soil. Remember that plants during the day take up carbon dioxide and during the night they take up oxygen. How much of this carbon dioxide is available in the soil for plant uptake and for purposes of photosynthesis? How much oxygen is available in the soil for plants during the process of respiration? That is what we are referring to as soil aeration. You know that in the event that there is excess carbon dioxide, the plants could be deleterious for the crop, or they would turn to be toxic. The same for the case of oxygen, just as it is for human beings. So, how do we know that a soil is well aerated or poorly aerated? A well aerated soil contains enough oxygen for respiration of the roots and aerobic microorganisms. On the other hand, poorly aerated soil is compacted. That is, it has very few or limited air spaces, and therefore, usually it occurs in lands that have been dug and stepped over, or those that are in waterlogged areas. That is anaerobic conditions. Soil temperature. Usually, the soil temperature is a measure of warmth in the soil. Remember when we were saying the three basic requirements of plant growth is water, warmth, and that warmth heat. What is the ideal temperature that a plant requires for optimum growth? Usually, the ideal temperature is 18 to 24 degrees. Beyond this point, the plant will either have effects of stunted growth, and so is below this range. The other very most important aspect we will look at throughout this course is what we refer to as soil organic matter. Soil organic matter is made of plant residues and living microbial biomass. It is what we refer to as humus or soil organic matter that is found on the O horizon of the soil profile. It has got various benefits to the soil. These could be physical, they could be chemical or biological. Physically, soil organic matter enhances the stability of soil by improving the ability of water to pass through and the amount of soil air that is available during plant growth. Also improves water holding capacity and reduces clay soils from being reduces acid casting and enhances and prevents what we call as compaction. The chemical benefits of soil organic matter is that it increases the cation exchange capacity and also enhances the buffering capacity of a soil, that is, preventing the fluctuations of its pH from being too acidic or too basic. It also accelerates the process of decomposition, which makes nutrients available to plants for growth. A lot of benefits of soil organic matter include providing food for the macro organisms that are found in soil. It enhances their diversity and also increases the pore space, enhance infiltration in soil. Soil organic matter. How do we in remember what when we talked about different types of soils, we talked of soils called aridi soils. And these soils are what we have commonly in Kenya. They are found in arid areas and they are deficient of organic matter. What is it that we can do to increase the amount of organic matter in these soils? Here are some suggestions. Number one is what we call as conservation tillage. That is what we refer to as minimum tillage. Ensure you do not disturb the soil. Ensure you lower the amount of times you till a shamba or a farm. This will ensure that the microbes that are found in soil and that are useful in soil organic matter formation are not disturbed. It will also ensure that compaction is reduced as much as possible. Conservation tillage is also known as zero tillage or no tillage. Do not disturb the soil. And this is what is commonly being advised in agriculture, in modern day agriculture. The other process is what we call as plant rotation. Plant rotation means that in every season you have to exchange the crops you grow to a farm. For instance, even you have a piece of land and this season you grow maize, which is a cereal. The next time you're supposed to try a legume like a bean or like cowpea, such things. It helps to ensure that the soil the soil grows deeper and processes such as crusting and compaction are prevented. Then you have to establish the use of legume cover crops. Cover crops usually enhance the provision of the main minerals that the main nutrients that the crop needs, for example, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. It also enhances the decomposition of various organic matter that can form into what we call as humus. Therefore, people are encouraged that once you harvest, for example, maize, do not throw the straw away or feed them to cows or use them for firewood. Return them in the shamba. It enhances soil cover, prevents evaporation of water, and gives the soil some nutrients that it did not have. The other approach to increase soil organic matter is to avoid compaction. What we have said can be avoided if avoid stepping on the shamba, avoid waterlogging, avoid tillage, disturbing the soil microbial activity or the soil pH. Lastly, what we do overall so that we can establish the amount of soil organic matter in a farm is to test the soil to enable you to fertilize it properly. In our next topic, we will look at soil testing and what are the processes of fertilization. But the basic to knowing the problem of a soil, including the deficiency of soil organic matter, is by testing it. And the solution to after testing any deficiency is using fertilizers or what we call as soil conditioners. We will look at these aspects, what they are and what is their use. Lastly, we look at the soil nutrients and mineral content. This is what defines a soil. From basic biology, we know that a soil has got both macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients are those that are required in high amounts, while micronutrients are those that are required in small amounts. Macronutrients include nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, calcium, sulfur, carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. The micronutrients include boron, chloride, copper, iron, manganese, molybdenum, nickel, and zinc. It is from this stage that I would like to stop and for you to understand the soil nutrients and the mineral content and This is an assignment. Number one is discuss the role of each and every micronutrient and macronutrient to soil and plant growth. What is the use of nitrogen? What is the use of phosphorus? What does copper help the soil to do? That is what I am asking in the first question. Second question is discuss the symptoms of deficiencies that result from macronutrients and micronutrients discussed in one above. That is, for instance, my soil has got no nitrogen or has got low amounts of nitrogen. What should I see on the crop? Does it wither? Does it dry up? Does it turn yellow? Does it turn brown? Does it prevent growth, the normal growth of the crop? Those are the symptoms I would like you to discuss. Lastly, is discuss the main minerals that are found in soil and their crystalline structure. And I have given some of the common minerals like kaolinite, the mica, and the quartz. You need to discuss these and more of them and their structure. Remember that in this case, if you do the nutrient content of the soil is also controlled by the mineral content. And by you doing this assignment, you will be able to explore how the nutrient content of the soil is related to the mineral content of the soil. That's the end of this class. Thank you.